Hey guys, John Quinn here, the author of Someone Like Me. Time for my weekly video blog. If it's one question that I get pretty often, it's this question here. It's, John, how do I write a book? Well, that's a really good question. And I think a lot of people should write their own stories and write a book. If I was to give any advice in the area of writing a book, it would be a few things. First of all, I would say don't worry about writing a book. If you think about writing, the great American novel or a book, if you will, that's pretty daunting, and it can be pretty intimidating to even begin something like that. So the advice that I give, it's this: just tell me a story. Tell me one story about one thing in your life that you want to talk about. And get that story down on paper. I mean, to get started, you could think about, if you're writing a memoir, and this is basically advice on writing memoirs. Tell me about the time that you and your best friend went out and did this. Or tell me about, the happiest day of your life. Or tell me about the saddest day of your life. And put yourself in that spot and write that story. Don't worry about writing a book. Just tell one story about one event. Get that story down, and then once you're done with that, tell me another story. If you read Someone Like Me, that's basically what I did. Was I told one story, then I told another story, and another story. But don't be concerned about grammar or punctuation or even spelling for the most part when you're writing, because you don't want anything to stop you in the flow of your writing. I know for myself that once I start, and I think it would be the same for you too, once you start, it's amazing what happens. You might start thinking about one story, and all of a sudden another story pops in your mind and you're like, oh yeah, I want to write about that too. So, just start writing. That's the key to it. And don't worry about word count or format or anything like that. There's a time and a place for all that. Don't worry about trying to find a literary agent or query letters or book proposals. I can do another blog on all that stuff. But as far as writing, pure writing, one of the things that I do for myself is I basically know what I want to write about. I know that story in my mind that I want to write. But how do you get there to write it? For me, I really have to put myself back in that scene, if you will, so that I can write it. Sometimes I'll sit and I'll think about that one story that I want to write, and I'll think about it for a long time. Sometimes for hours or days in my mind before it's so built up in my mind that I have to sit down and get it out of my mind and get it down on paper. Putting myself back into that scene really helps me bring up the detail that you need when you're writing. And so that's what I do. I'll sit and I'll think about something for so long that by the time I'm writing, I need to write this one story. The other bit of advice is just write like you talk. That might sound simple, but it's really not. But I believe that it's pretty apparent if you're writing conversation and you're writing like you talk and you think, well, I don't sound smart enough, if you will. You want to put in some big words, and trust me, I've tried it. Those big words, they kind of stick out. So don't try and be something that you're not when it comes to your writing. Just be yourself, and let your personality and your own personal writing style come through. I think for myself, that's really good advice, and it's something that I continue to work on in my writing. So that's it. So begin writing. Just start. And I look forward to seeing your books on the shelves one day. And in future blogs, I'll talk about query letters, how to find a literary agent, and book proposals, which are what you need at your business plan for a nonfiction book. So those are really important tools, but we'll talk about those later on down the road. Anyways, hopefully you guys are having a good week. If you haven't read my book already, please do. It's called Someone Like Me, an unlikely story of challenge and triumph over cerebral palsy. It just picked up its 121st Amazon review this week. 114 of those are 5-star. I couldn't be more excited and more proud. Thanks for all the support. Check out my website, johnwquinn.com. And if you're looking for a motivational speaker to come into your school or organization, keep me in mind. I'd love to come in and share my story of overcoming challenges in everyday life. So, anyways, have a great week, guys. It's been a pleasure. Always nice hearing from you guys, and have a great week. Bye-bye.